We are watching some rare home movie footage of Charlie Chaplin actually directing City Lights. Chaplin is in costume on the set with Virginia Cherrill, who's his 20-year-old co-star, as well as some extras there in the back. He's trying to coax a performance out of Cherrill, an untrained and inexperienced actress, and he's demonstrating how to sell his character a flower. He's now conferring with his cinematographer, Raleigh Tothero, in the white suit and hat. Notice how he speaks and gesticulates in shorthand with Tothero, who was with him in varying capacities from his days in S&A Studios in 1915 to his film Limelight in 1952, virtually his entire U.S. career. This park set also doubles later on in the film as the Millionaire's Garden with the help of some skillful reshuffling by Chaplin's set designer, Danny Hall. You can see that after conferring with Tothero, Chaplin has moved Cherrill a little further up on the ledge, where she would remain for all subsequent takes and in the finished film. Chaplin watches her performance from more of a distance, seated in his director chair, but the new perspective is of no help. Chaplin was a perfectionist, the king of the retake, but he set a record even by his own standards with this sequence, 342 takes for what ended up being just a 3-minute sequence in the finished film. Chaplin took 5 lengthy stabs at filming the sequence throughout the 2-year production of City Lights, first in January, February of 1929, later in April and December, and finally in August and September of 1930. Ralph Barton shot the 16mm home movie during one of those 2 earliest attempts. Here Chaplin is goofing around for Barton, the only time he smiles out of character in any of this footage. Barton was a great friend of Chaplin's, and it was a terrible shock when he committed suicide shortly after City Lights was released. Here now, Chaplin is venting at assistant director Harry Crocker for the way he's managing those extras. Crocker is best remembered as the co-star of the previous Chaplin film, The Circus. He was not long for this production and was fired in September of 1929, which allows us to approximate when Barton shot this film. I'm happy to report that Chaplin and Crocker did eventually reconcile about 20 years later, shortly before Crocker's own untimely death. While Crocker did retain screen credit as assistant director after the dismissal, he shared it with Henry Bergman and Albert Austin, neither of whom we see in this Barton footage. Now Barton documents the central problem Chaplin is struggling with. A rich man is buying a flower from Cherrill, and then she attempts to make a sale after that to Chaplin's tramp. But why would she confuse a tramp with a man of means? She's certainly blind, but presumably her sense of smell is intact. What's troubling Chaplin is not just Cherrill's inexperience, but the logic of the sequence. Even so, Chaplin took out all his frustration about both on Cherrill. He even took her to task for the way she delivered her lines to him, even though he knew full well that this was a silent film. She only had to say 2 words, "Flower, sir?" But Chaplin complained that her inflection was all wrong, as was the way she held up the flower when offering it to the tramp. The clinking of the cup on the chain might have helped to alert her to his presence, but the device was abandoned in the final version.